Welcome back to another episode of Archie Sonic Character Files as we explore the histories of the inhabitants on planet Mobius. In this episode, we take a look at the history of the robotic dynamic duo known as Heavy and Bomb. So originally the next episode was going to be covering Shadow the Hedgehog, but since the guy has a lot of history, and the fact that it's going to be another co-op episode, it still needs more time to cook. In the meantime, I'll be posting out a few other Archie Sonic stuff, like this video talking about some forgotten robots. It's understandable how they ended up with that title over time, thanks to the fact that they were characters exclusive to a Sonic game that was only released on the Sega 32X, but Archie Sonic found a way to keep these guys alive and active in their universe for a time. Now, technically the first time we saw Heavy and Bomb was in issue 30, but I'll be talking about that later. In terms of their first active role in Archie Sonic, that would be in the Knuckles Chaotix adaptation. They were robots created by the original Robotnik to help repair any damaged systems. They were also some of the first robots of his to be equipped with power gems, which ended up backfiring as the gems gave Heavy and Bomb their own independent thoughts. After hearing about his plans to capture the Freedom Fighters, they decided to leave their creator, along with stealing his stash of power gems. They would later meet Knuckles, Espio, Charmy, Vector, and Mighty, and they all decided to join forces to defeat Robotnik and rescue the Freedom Fighters. Bomb helped out dealing some damage when the original Metal Sonic attacked them, but once it transformed into Titan Metal Sonic, Heavy gives Knuckles one of the power gems to help even the odds. By the end, the day is saved, with Sonic commenting that they all make a good team, though Heavy and Bomb aren't too keen on the idea, saying that life is already chaotic enough for them. The next time we'd see these guys would be in issues 62 through 64. Around this time, King Maximilian Acorn assigns Jeffrey St. John to create a new team to serve him, known as the Secret Service. Despite spying on the skunk, Heavy assures him that they mean no harm and that they want to join the team since they have nowhere else to go. After some training with their comrades, they receive new orders from King Max to find his long-lost Queen Alicia, to which the mission continues on in the Knuckles comics. On their mission, they first find Elias Acorn, the lost son of King Max, deal with some crazy weather that was happening in their area, and end up getting drifted away by the strong tides. Fortunately, thanks to Locke's Chaos Force, he rescued the two robots, and they later rejoined their team to find the Queen. After this story, they would continue to have several more missions with their Secret Service members, such as finding a Power Gem shard from the charred remains of the original Metal Sonic, rescuing Nate Morgan, who had been kidnapped by Snively and his gang of thugs, rescue civilians from Shadowbots sent out by the second Dr. Robotnik, rescue Elias, who had been kidnapped, and later find themselves captured and imprisoned in Robotropolis when they were on a mission to try and find the stolen Sword of Acorns. Fortunately, they were able to free their comrades, along with a disguised Sonic. But unbeknownst to Sonic and the gang, Robotnik had secretly reprogrammed them to serve his evil purposes. As they return to Castle Acorn, Heavy unleashes a whole bunch of bombs that are ready to blow up the castle and everyone inside. When Sonic runs in to rescue everyone, Heavy claims that it's no use, as he's the controller, and states that he'll continue to produce more bombs if Sonic tries to destroy them. But Sonic makes quick work of Heavy, and thanks to Rotor, the bombs are deactivated. We wouldn't be seeing these guys in action until issues 153 and 154, in the two-part story, Song Goose. During this time, Mina Mongoose is enjoying her life of being a famous singer, and everybody loves her music. Except for Dr. Robotnik. At first he hires Knack the Weasel to assassinate the Song Goose, but it doesn't go so well for him, so Robotnik decides to rebuild Heavy and Bomb to finish the job. While the Freedom Fighters dealt with a plethora of bombs and rescuing people attending the concert, Sonic was having a one-on-one fight against Heavy. After running out of options, he tunnels his way underground, with Heavy following, and ending with them being shot out into the middle of the ocean. And as the name implies, Heavy sank like a stone and was no longer a threat. But it's not over yet, as there was one bomb left in Mina's dressing room, but her manager Ash Mongoose quickly got it out and took the blow. That was the end for Heavy and Bomb, but surprisingly they were once again brought back years later, starting off in issue 236. Around this time, Naugus is now the ruler of New Mobotropolis, while the Freedom Fighters are falling apart, with Sally once again roboticized, Antoine in a coma after a tussle against Metal Sonic, and Bunny leaving the group to find another way to help. After some discussion, they decide to create Team Freedom to look after New Mobotropolis, while Team Fighters are off to rescue Sally. And it looks like Heavy and Bomb were once again brought back to life. Despite being shown in their new looks created by Robotnik, they maintain their good personalities and are ready to help and protect the city. And they were kept pretty busy, from slowing down the destruction of a building to rescue civilians, to rescuing Mina Mongoose and her band from her stage blowing up. They later find out that the mastermind behind all of these attacks was the Tails doll, and are ready to fight off one of Robotnik's creations, just like old times. But thanks to the Super Genesis wave, they never got the chance to do so. As for the new continuity, we never really saw Heavy and Bomb in action. Judging off of certain details and other info, it's safe to assume that the events of Knuckles Chaotix already took place in the post-Super Genesis wave timeline, just being more closer to the game's version of Heavy and Bomb. Robots created by Robotnik, later finding themselves caught up with Knuckles and the Chaotix, and by the end of the adventure, their current whereabouts are left unknown. And that concludes the history of Heavy and Bomb, the bulky silver robot and the sentient explosive device. They may have been on and off characters, but their relevancy is night and day when compared to their one and only appearance in a 32X Sonic game that Sega can't be bothered importing it to newer consoles. But right, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the designs. Honestly, I kinda have some nostalgia for their old looks, which is quite ironic because the first time I saw these characters was from issue 153, showing their more game-accurate designs. Anyway, the reasons why they ended up getting completely different designs in the comics that stuck around for so long is quite the mystery. At first, I always thought that they didn't have the reference material, knowing Sega's history of being very secretive with upcoming games, and leaving people to advertise them in the dark. Like, they had pictures for Espio, Charmy, and Victor, but they only had very brief descriptions on what Heavy and Bomb looked like. Even the game's manual is pretty vague on whose side that they're on. But then comes issue 30 to throw a monkey wrench into that theory. In said issue, they featured this single panel that was made to advertise the upcoming Knuckles Chaotix comic, and it actually features Heavy and Bomb looking more like how they did in the game. I didn't know about this until much later thanks to the world of Archie Sonic on Twitter. I always read this story in the Sonic Archives volumes, and it's rather strange that they decided to leave this page out in the reprints. I know Art Mawini was the guy who did the artwork for the Knuckles Chaotix comic, and most likely came up with the redesigns. But it looks like he also did the artwork for this panel as well, and if that's the case, it just raises even more questions. If the artist had the reference material to draw them how they look like in the game, and if the company had the rights to publish their game-accurate designs in that issue, then why did they end up redesigning them at the last minute? Maybe they wanted to make them more expressive? I don't know. If Art Mawini is still around, someone needs to ask him about what's the deal with Heavy and Bomb getting redesigns in Archie Sonic. Anyway, in terms of how they were handled in the comics, I'm kinda mixed about it. It's neat seeing Heavy being all calculating and polite, while Bomb communicates by being that one annoying person on Discord who's always pinging people. Then again, there was that one time he spoke English in Knuckles comic issue 21. Yeah, that was random. They got to have some moments in the adaptation, but after that, it feels like the writers just didn't know what to do with them. Rather strange that the Chaotix team would become more frequent in the comics, yet these guys never appeared with them. I guess it's quite fitting that they ended up being members of the Secret Service, a team being made up of characters where they just didn't know what to do with them at the time. At least Heavy is capable with technology and adapting to snowy landscapes, and it's kinda funny how whenever Bomb blows up, he's always back the next day. I get that issue 102 was the turning point for them, where they became all evil and whatnot, but it feels pretty weak. Like, it starts off interesting with the plan of blowing up the entire castle, but then Heavy acts like an idiot and explains how he's the main controller and gets turned into scrap metal pretty quickly. They could have at least given us a short scene of Heavy fighting off Sonic. Their return for attacking Mina's concert was brief, but at least it was nice to see them in their more game-accurate designs. And I guess Carl Boilers wanted to make up for how anticlimactic their last battle was, cause now, we actually see Heavy try and fight Sonic. Not the most successful robot, but it's a start. When it was time for Ian Flynn to do something with the characters, he decided to combine the best of both worlds, keep their game designs, but bring back their old personalities and become good guys again. The only problem is that their return comes out of nowhere, like, oh hey, it's Heavy and Bomb, back from the dead! Again! Yeah, it's very random. Well, okay, Rotor does briefly mention that he and Tails found their original data files and rebuilt them, or something like that. Just weird that we didn't get any visuals on their return. I guess that was already used up when they decided to show off the return of the original Metal Sonic. And despite the new timeline being more closer to the games, It's a bit of a shame that we never saw Heavy and Bomb in action again. In fact, it's quite the coincidence how issue 247 became their deathbeds in a way. Not only was this the last time we saw Heavy and Bomb in Archie Sonic's old timeline, but this was the last time we've seen these robots in general. Yeah, as of now, it's been over 10 years since we've seen Heavy and Bomb in a more active role in any official Sonic media. I'm sure they might have their fans, but it doesn't seem to be as big and loud when compared to Mighty the Armadillo. I suppose they might have a chance to appear in IDW Sonic, especially since we got to see new Project High Zone in the Knack the Weasel spin-off. Then again, knowing Sega's questionable mandates, if these robots do end up showing up in these comics, then it's only going to be a classic Sonic-themed story. And I'm really not a fan of Sega's mindset about keeping certain characters exclusive to either classic or modern Sonic-only material. I mean, combining both classic and modern Sonic material into one worked just fine in Archie Sonic. Why is it such a big deal now? Well, that takes care of this character file, so until then, I got a juice! Heavy and Bomb. Heavy and Bomb.
Heavy and Bomb?